Namaskar. Today I am going to talk about Corona and give you an update on how the coming years are looking with respect to this disease. At least the next 2 years, a broader trend is what I am going to share with you. Of course, I will discuss spikes, highs and lows as and when they happen during this period as well. Now, I want to share this here that in mid-year 2020, I had done an analysis on Corona and I had said that casualties would decrease after November and the intensity of the disease would also come down and a vaccine would come up around that period. All of that had happened and I had done another analysis in December 2020 mentioning that there would be a major spike in the disease which would come up this time with a respiratory disorder from February 2021 to May 2021. Now, some people missed this December 2020 update where I had spoken about a February to May 21 spike. And they were very angry because they said, you had said that November the intensity is going to decrease and, it'll be over. Why did it come up? So, my request is please follow the analysis. Otherwise, now, what can I say? You have to, don't miss the updates. That's all that I can, that's my humble submission. And even after that, I have done videos analyzing whenever we've had spikes in Corona and they're available on this channel itself. Okay, moving on. In the yearly predictions that I had done for 2022 to 2023, I had mentioned that in 23, we see disease coming up again. Even in the video in June 2020, I had mentioned about a disease coming up in 2023. Now, this disease has the propensity to decrease world population and cause a lot of casualty. Now, if you look at the casualties of a world war, Corona has far surpassed them. The casualties due to Corona are far higher. The death toll is far higher than what you've seen or the numbers that history tells you for World War I or World War II. So, this period of Khand Pralay has started from 2020 and these are the signs that we are seeing, and this is not just for a couple of years. This goes beyond a decade and more. Saturn enters into Rohini Nakshatra in December 2030 and again from 2033 onwards there are more problems basis other alignments of planets. And I will do a detailed analysis sometime later on what we see at the end of the decade because that too is a combination that is coming up for a major war. I want to give you an example here. Like Osama bin Laden was created by the US for the Soviet-Russia war and eventually what happened? Terrorist activities took place on US soil. Similarly, this germ warfare was created in China. This disease was perpetuated in their laboratories and it will now eventually attack China itself. So, China will be the major sufferer, the major victim number one you can say of this disease and the death toll will be very, very high for China. I have said this in my previous videos as well. The economy of China is going to nosedive in this decade and this is not a good decade and this particular transit of Saturn in Aquarius for China's horoscope is going to increase the death rate. The number of casualties are going to increase for China and the country seems to be going through major troubles. Now, if we look at the horoscope of China, which is a Makar Lagna horoscope or a Capricorn Lagna horoscope, then you can see that Saturn was currently transiting on the natal moon of China. The natal moon is also in Capricorn. Saturn transited into Capricorn in January 2020. Now, from 17th January 2023, Saturn moves into Aquarius from Capricorn and it spells further doom for China. Why? If you look at this horoscope, and I've shared it many times in my previous chats, my previous analysis as well, Aquarius is the second house for this horoscope of China and in this particular transit, Saturn will be aspected by natal Saturn from the 8th house and will receive the 8th aspect of Mars from the 7th house. This is a clear indication of loss of life with respect to this horoscope of China. And therefore, this disease is going to come to haunt China. What you create is going to come and haunt you for a long time. And that seems to be the future, as one can see from this horoscope of China. Now, from 17th January 2023 till March end April beginning 2025, Saturn remains in Aquarius, and therefore for China, this combination of transiting Saturn, receiving the aspect of natal Saturn and Mars is going to be horrific. It is showing a lot of trouble. And to divert the attention from this disease, China will get active on our borders and create trouble there as well. So that can be seen every time Saturn becomes retrograde, and I have shared dates of Saturn retrogression, etc. in the latest video that I have done on Saturn's transit in Kumbh and the effects. Now, a lot of people have said that the vaccines created in China are not affected. Now, there is a lot of news that one can see that the vaccines created or developed in China are not that good and not that effective. But what comes across from the planetary alignments, one can see that our vaccines are not going to be effective for this disease, because this disease is going to be 2 steps ahead of us. It will mutate at such a fast speed that we will forever be catching up with the disease. Saturn in Kumbh will also transit through the Shatabhisha nakshatra, which is the nakshatra of healing, of medicinal herbs. So definitely scientists and doctors are going to come up with the right vaccine and the right dosage. But remember, we will be catching up. This disease is going to be 2 steps ahead of us. Always a couple of steps ahead of us. Because as I said, it will mutate at a very fast pace. Now, looking at the astrological combination for the same. Now, Saturn, when it enters into Aquarius on the 17th of January 2023, from there Saturn will aspect Rahu with the 3rd aspect. Rahu is currently transiting in Aries and Ketu is in Libra, the Aries-Libra axis, and Saturn from Kumbh, Aquarius, with its 3rd aspect will now catch hold of Rahu. Now, the path has already been paved with Saturn's transit in Aquarius. The path for the disease to set in is now getting ready. Okay. Now, when Jupiter moves from Pisces and joins this Rahu in the last week of April, specifically April 24th, 2023, then Jupiter, the planet which represents Jeev, would have come into the Rahu-Ketu axis, and together this conjunction of Jupiter and Rahu would receive the 3rd aspect of Saturn. That is when the disease would really pick up. But it's not that we have to wait till April 24th. Remember, the path is already paved for the disease with Saturn's transit into Aquarius. We might not receive a lot of information, a lot of news from China, but trouble is brewing there. Well, China seems to be suffering the most. In China's case, it can be said what you create engulfs you eventually, and that is going to be China's story. So, the path has already been paved for the disease to set in with Saturn's transit in Kumbh, 17 January 23, but it further intensifies from April 24th, 2023. Now, if you look at the horoscope of independent India, then we are currently running the Vimshotri Dasha of Moon Ketu till July. If you look at the Char Dasha, it's Kumbh and Karka, Aquarius and Cancer, and that too is showing troubles. Even Aquarius and Leo will be problematic. So, if we are looking at this arc of Saturn's transit from Jan 1723 to March end 25, then we are seeing a lot of problem. Also, a point that I will further detail in my yearly predictions horoscope. Yearly predictions for us happen from the first Navratra. So, from the 21st of March, our new year starts. And that's how we look at horoscopes in Medhini mundane astrology. So every time Saturn retrogrades in 23 and 24, in the second half of the year, Saturn will retrograde for a couple of months. And I've shared the dates very clearly in the latest video on Saturn's transit in Aquarius. Now, every time it retrogrades and takes the effect of Capricorn, again there seem to be violent protests that will affect our country. That seems to be the case. Now, Corona is not just for India and China, but for the world. So, it will affect population world over. And with this particular transit and the transits of this decade, because see, from 2020, what has started is a change of the world order. It is a sort of khand pralay. It's a churn. And this churn is supposed to build dharma, build righteousness. And in this churn, there is disease, there is rioting, there is violence, there is war, eventually for a new world order to set in. By the end of this decade, 2030, India will become a powerful economy and eventually become a superpower. That is clearly there. The world will look towards India as the spiritual capital of the world and try and understand a higher purpose of life from India. So the West will now come down and the East will rise. That is what the stars say. Okay, coming to the horoscope of India again. Now this is an old research of my Jyotish Guru K.N. Rao sir. If you look at the horoscope of India, then the Sarvashtak Varga Bindus for Aquarius, Pisces, Aries is chronologically rising, and therefore this decade will see the rise of India. In this particular transit of Saturn in Aquarius, for India's horoscope of Taurus Lagna, Aquarius is the 10th house, and Saturn as the 10th lord is transiting in that house, so it's a very good sign for the economy. But also understand, if we make a chart for the transiting point, the exact transiting point of Saturn, then it is coming into the 8th house. So while the economy will go up, there are some hiccups, but we will handle them. Our borders will see troubles in this particular transit of Saturn. I have referred to it in my other video, in the latest video. Another point that I'd like to mention here, Ketu is going to enter Chitra Nakshatra on the 7th of July 2023. And from there, violence picks up. There are some other problems that pick up which are beyond disease. Communal tension picks up as well. Ketu stays in Chitra Nakshatra from the 7th of July 2023 till the last week of January 2024. This conjunction of Jupiter and Rahu, which begins from the last week of April 2023, goes on till November 20th, 2023. From there, from November 20th, Rahu moves on to, Rahu and Ketu leave the Aries and Libra axis and move on to Pisces and Kanya, Pisces and Virgo. And this conjunction of Jupiter-Rahu, which is receiving the aspect of Saturn, breaks. So from 24th April to the 20th of November, this conjunction, which is troubling the Jiva planet Jupiter, will result in disease, and definitely there is some respiratory problem that will attach itself to this disease. I have mentioned that one needs to be careful. One cannot say that, booster doses will now make us immune to this disease. That is not going to happen, because this disease is clever. These mutants are clever. They are going to mutate faster than what we think. And in this catch up that we will do, the casualty or the death rate will increase. That is something that we need to be careful of. I have already mentioned that the economy for India is going to build up in this decade, and the economy of China is going to nosedive. For manufacturing and production, the strength that China had, it was China's forte. That itself is, China will weaken its hold on that forte. And the percentage in which China will come down, in that very percentage, India will rise. That is going to happen, and we will see. That is a trend for this decade. In the previous videos that I did on Tokyo Olympics, and even in the yearly predictions video that I did for 2022-23, I have mentioned about the Chinese economy. So it's not just that now this discussion is happening. This has happened in 2020, 21, 22. I've been discussing this almost forever in a lot of my videos. See, whenever Khand Pralaya happens, disease, war, rioting and natural calamities, they sort of trouble the population of the world. So it is always good to move out of a materialistic lifestyle. We are selfishly cocooned in our own, in our own very limited selves. So I always say, when you speak the truth and you're truthful and you're honest in your work, then that is the biggest remedy that you could do. It is the remedy of remedies. A lot of people say, this is going to trouble me, that is going to trouble me. What upaya can I do? Yes, of course you can do stotras, you can do mantras. But if you're not truthful and you're not honest, then those are superficial. That is at a superficial level. Eventually, the mantras are meant to alter your consciousness and move it to a higher order consciousness. Move your consciousness upwards. But if you are stuck in the same rot and you keep on doing mantras, but you don't rise beyond your limited self, then of course the mantra will give you some effect. That is absolutely there, because it is the law of karma. What you do, so shall you reap. So you keep on doing mantra, it will give some effect. But the idea is to raise your consciousness. Truth has the element of Agni, Satya Agni, as it is said. Jap, tap, dan increases your tapasya, which is also the element of Agni. In all your three bodies, the tattva of Agni has to increase: the adhyatmic body, the mental, emotional or energy body, and the physical body. Not just the physical body. See, disease also takes this path. It sits as a seed on your adhyatmic astral body, comes onto your energy body, and eventually manifests in your physical body. So suddenly you will not develop a kidney ailment or a pancreatic ailment. This is how it is. It is a previous karma that comes out and transfers and manifests eventually in the physical body. So when we do jap, tap, and tap cannot be done if you're not honest or you're not truthful, then it roasts the seed of even previous karmas. They are not able to sprout. See, we have to suffer prarabdha karma. That is like the potter's wheel which has been set into motion. You have to exhaust it. But even in that, there is, I've mentioned it many times, drid prarabdha, adrid prarabdha, drid prarabdha. With your agami karma, with the worship that you do, your spiritual practice, you can roast the seed of past sins. That opportunity is there. You have your breathing, you have time, you have the opportunity, this current life, you're alive and you can do it. Human endeavor cannot be overlooked. So whatever opportunity you get in terms of doing karma, whether it's cooking, whether it's cleaning utensils, whether it's doing whatever, just do it well. That is the point. Don't say, I am doing this and somebody is doing that. That is higher work than this. Whatever be the contours of your karma, whatever you are doing, do it well. Do it honestly and do it with absolute dedication. That is the point. Even if it is cleaning the house, do it with absolute dedication. Don't do work superficially. I've seen people sitting in offices just not interested, just passing their time earning money. But remember, money that is earned through deceit, that money and the food that you earn, that the food that you buy with that money, that food is laden with many vikaras. And all of this will only dilute the element of Agni. The Agni Tattva will become Kshina. That has to be taken into account. Now, one point that I want to share with you here. Remember, every time, everybody knows this, but I'm just making a point here. When there is an eclipse, the sun is enveloped by Rahu. Every time you have alcohol, that is the tattva of Rahu. So you're making an ahuti within your own body, in your Surya Chakra, which is actually your digestive system, of the physical body. You're putting the tattva of Rahu, which is tamasic. It will eventually alter Your buddhi, you might not be able to make the right decisions. They might be intellectual, but they might not be wise. There is a difference between the two. So anything which is troubling the Agni Tattva or making it weaker, Agni is immunity. Immunity against a disease is Agni. Remember this. Now, lungs are per se, are astrologically one looks at moon, also at Mercury, to look at lungs. But cosmically, if you see, the Chandrama is getting its light from the Surya. So if lungs are a problem, lungs are weak, kaf pravritti is building up, then whether you do mantric worship or a remedial this thing for Chandrama, it is always important to do it for Surya. So if I were to come to mantras, I'd say Aditya Hridaya Stotram, Surya Ashtakam, or just simply the Gayatri mantra. That will help you. But all this mantra, and then you get up at 11 a.m. and you eat dinner at, close to midnight. That will not work. Then you have to, your biological clock has to be set in a way that it follows that of the sun. A very beautiful system that the Jains follow. They don't eat after sunset. If only we could do that, then remember half the problems of joints, aching joints, vata, kapha, everything will settle down. We eat dinner very late, acid content builds up in the body. So, anyway, I don't want to just take this discussion on and on, but some important points that I wanted to share with you. I have mentioned Agni Tattva in all the three bodies has to be built up. Whatever we can do, whatever we must do. I have shared some points with you. I have shared some points with you here of how one has to increase the Agni Tattva. And remember, it can't be just done by sitting on an asana and then just chanting a mantra. It has to be inculcated in your lifestyle. There has to be mental truthfulness. We say good things to one person and then we sort of snigger behind their backs. We have to be truthful in our relationships. Dharma is Agni. Righteousness is Agni. Okay. And with that, with that note, I will now end this. Thank you for listening to me. Namaskar.